Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the 7th edition of Let's Jaliawala. Let's is leadership, enterprise and technology. Jaliawala happens to be me. In this program, we are getting you to meet some amazing people who we come across in our work, who are either doing fantastic work when it comes to authentic leadership, being really living their creed, responding to their calling, or are leading wonderful enterprises. And when we say enterprise, it's not just for-profit or non-profit, but a new form of enterprise that has come out, which is social enterprise. And T is technology. How can we bring technology to answer our biggest challenges? These are the people I come across in my work, and I want them to be on this show so that many more people can find out about their work, seek inspiration, and have many more stories to believe in. It's the stories that determine how far we go in life. Today's guest is a wonderful young girl. And I call her girl for very serious reasons, you understand. She has had a fantastic profile divided between UK and Pakistan. Currently, she is the executive director for PAGE, which is Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education, which has been working a whole lot on making sure that girls' education takes a priority on the national agenda, advocating with multiple institutions and government stakeholders to make sure the right budget is allocated and the ecosystem is good enough for girls to stand up and get their right, which is education. Alongside that, she has led multiple ventures in the past, many social enterprises. So here we have Fajer Rabia. Thank you very much, Fajer, for being on the show. Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for having me.
Was it all right, the profile?
Yes, you did quite well. Yes.
I did quite well. Yes, I just wanted to make sure that I give out enough, and of course we're here to find out more from you. Is there anything that I didn't mention?
No, I think you summarized it quite well, quite nicely. Yeah.
And how long would this journey be for you, being a social entrepreneur?
15 years, all by myself. And but I like to include the time that my parents have really nurtured me and mentored me into social entrepreneurship.
Wow.
And I think that gave me the foundations, that gave me guidance and a path to follow as well.
Yeah.
So, and I think I'm very lucky to have parents who let me out.
That's true.
I tell you what, as a girl, and I've grown up in Islamabad, I have attended school next door. I was in the boarding for 7 years there.
Wow.
And but when I came out, the 2 to 3 years I was at 2 years I was home before moving to England.
Sure.
I had the opportunity to travel across Pakistan with my parents. I had the opportunity to look at what's going on and how women in particular can be supported. Poverty has always been an issue. It's not a new thing that we're talking about. Women empowerment is not a new thing that we're talking about.
Yes.
But I saw real time, firsthand, how some of the work, if done properly, can actually bring people out of poverty, and especially women. And that, I think, created such a big impact on me that and I was so involved in work back then, and I'm talking 98, 99, when I must have been 14, 15, I think. I was allowed to go out and do things work-wise, and my friends just wouldn't believe that.
And this was your family allowing
this
you
is my
to,
family. That's how, I think, the confidence came from there.
Sure.
Because, I think parenting is something very important and can have a major impact on a child.
Sure.
And my parents just letting me go and doing things sort of created that for me. And, when I had the opportunity to organize this exhibition that takes place in Dubai every year, the Dubai Festival. Not the exhibition itself.
The crazy festival.
The crazy festival, not the crazy festival, but we took a delegation of women entrepreneurs coming from very deprived backgrounds and taking them to Dubai Festival to introduce them to international market.
Okay. And these were women from Pakistan?
These were women from Pakistan. I was 14 at that time. So I organized the whole thing, and I was like, wow, when you're that young and you're just given that opportunity to do that. So my parents really trained me. Both my mom and dad really sort of, didn't push me into it. They just sort of put it there for me. And I just, sort of got into it. And that really helped me, because when I went to England, I must have been 18 when I set up my first social enterprise.
Wow.
So that training.
So at 18, you were already ready to be an entrepreneur. I'll pause you there. It's wonderful things you've said about parenting, and also this, this when I was thinking of this brand, Let's. I was inspired by Shugata Mitra, who said that we don't need to make children learn.
Yes.
We need to let them learn.
Facilitate.
Yeah,
I
and
think
I think parents allowing that to happen, whether it's a boy child or a girl child, can do wonders. So yeah, let's start. How do you define yourself? There's the profile introduction. It's out there on the website, on LinkedIn. But Fajer, how does she define herself?
I think work-wise, I define myself as a social entrepreneur. Okay. I call myself a hardcore social entrepreneur who's born into it and sort of grown into it, and it's not something that I've just picked up as a buzzword. I've always been a social entrepreneur. And then I think on a personal side, and
to sort of just introduce to our people, what is social enterprise for you?
Well, for me, social enterprise or a social entrepreneur is a person who knows how to make money to start with, right? Who knows how to make money out of anything. But then using that skill for betterment of the society. I think that's what it comes to, and social entrepreneur can be in any sector. It doesn't have to be education or anything specific. It could be anything and everything. But as long you're addressing the issues of our communities, of people, of societies, but you're able to generate income as well. So not necessarily, for example, in England, it's very well defined what is a social enterprise. There's a legal structure there, and there's a very clear definition that
very enabling environment.
Very enabling environment, absolutely. And
I think we're trying to create that in Pakistan.
We are trying. I think we'll get there as well, inshallah. I think it's happening. It started off, and it will get there as well. And
so you're a social entrepreneur at heart, born and bred into it, and
absolutely.
And build upon that definition.
Well, in terms of, I think, let's just take Page as an example. So Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education. And I think that's something very, and I would like to present that as a story one day in terms of how Page has happened and how Page has grown and, and is a social enterprise. See, first of all, I think, it's very important to understand that within the development sector, the funding is dying. So the organization...
Is it dying for good, or is it a phase?
I think it could be a phase. It could be a phase, especially you have to look at what's happening politically in the global environment. Then you have to look at what things are like within your local settings and local environment at national level as well, at government level, and you have to be able to foresee what's the next 10 years going to be like. And
so, but your projection is that in the next 10 years we have lesser of the development fund that we,
I think so. I think we're going to have less and less, and it's going to cut down drastically. It has been cut down drastically already. And for organizations which are operating as not-for-profit, it's very important to adapt to the change. Because if you don't adapt to change, you will disappear. Anybody who doesn't adapt to change, eventually goes. May that be a private business or a not-for-profit business. And I think when I took charge of Page, the first and the biggest challenge was, okay, so there is all this work that we want to do. We've got the skills, the experience. We've got a fantastic board. But how are we going to do it without the resources, right? Without money, how we're going to
How far can you go without it?
How far can you go without it? How far can you volunteer for it as well? Money is an important part, and so for the first, I think I would say that the first year I spent, 2017 was all about building the foundation of Page, so we can turn it into a social enterprise. So it's generating sustainable income, which is not dependent on grants. So because we know we've got a big task on our hand, and to achieve that, we need sustainable income coming in. We don't want project-based money coming in and being very project-focused, because I think that brings our cuts down our vision as well. And you know, when you're trying to do big things, you don't want to be bogged down with small things.
That's true, and it's not lasting as well. It is only there till the time there's money coming in. I'm just going to give you one last chance if you want to add anything to the definition about your own self. So there's social entrepreneurship.
Social entrepreneur, and I think as a person, I'm somebody to go to even if you don't keep in touch for years and years and years. Yeah. But if I can do anything, I would do things. I have learned that we need to give as much as possible without expecting a return.
Sure.
And I think that really adds to a person's character. Yeah. And you know, people who know me well. They know they can just come to me anytime. If I'm offer any help, I'm there. I'm always there for people.
I think it's one thing that's common in social entrepreneurs, this element of care, and I think that's what drives them in the business as well.
Absolutely.
So what's your everyday like? You know? And I know that you have multiple roles to play, but give us a snapshot of what the day.
My day starts at 6:30 in the morning, sharp. So kids have
to go to school. Are you happy about that?
I am happy. Yeah, well, this is why I enjoy my weekends because I can sleep.
Yes.
I love sleeping. I have to sleep because I think that recharges me, my brain, my body. So I need that. But my everyday, my general days are like, you're up 6:30 in the morning. Because kids got to go to school. I'm a full-time mother as well. So, because I always say, you know, there's always this thing that a working mother is not a full-time mother. So I would like to make that clear. No, working mothers are a full-time mother as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So 6:30 in the morning, we start off. We get kids to school, and by 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm done and dusted with getting them into the school.
Done and dusted
for a few hours at least with kids. Okay. And that's the time when I sit down, have my tea, relax, look at my day, what needs to be done, plan my day ahead, look at my emails, respond to emails, etc. I spend a couple of hours doing that. And by 10 o'clock, 10:30, I like to be in office. So I just, you know, I have a little baby as well who's 2. So I have to sort her out before I leave, and you know, and that's it. That's then once I'm in the car, then this is like the next sort of stage of the day when it's you know, you on back-to-back phone calls, back-to-back meetings, in between trying to do your work, on, you know, sitting down, catching up with your team, meetings. That's all that happens all
once
day
at
long.
the office, the work just the day goes.
That's it. And then you go back home at 5 o'clock, and you're back home with your kids and looking at their homeworks in school and what's happened, because they're all ready to tell you what's happened during the day, or what was not nice and what was nice, and what they've done and what they're happy about. And you've got to, you know, regardless of how tiring day or stressful day you've had, you've got to sit down with a lot of patience, calm down, and just be with them as a mother, and not be anything else at that time. So yeah, so I think, you know, that my rest of the day goes by with them, you know, taking them out, doing whatever needs to be doing for them at home, and then getting them to bed, and that's my time again when I have my tea.
Okay. That's your time again.
That's always been the case, you know, since my first baby. You know, back in England, I was very much, you know, my routines were very defined. They're not as defined now, but they were very defined. So by 7 o'clock in the evening, kids would be in bed. So that would be my time to.
You tried following the routine here as well?
I think in Pakistan, it's a bit mad.
It's still challenging. But I think your answer has sort of, you know, thank you, Fajer. I was telling you that, you know, people usually answer this in the question that follows, which is, what is success for you? You know, people want to start companies, people want to lead companies. You're already doing that, and, you know, want to work on something big, larger than life. So how do you define success?
I think I define success in very simple terms. For me, success is not money and fame, and I think success is conquering yourself and getting to know yourself, being happy with yourself, accepting yourself, because and being in touch with your inner self. I think once you've achieved that, everything else just happens. Everything else just happens. You can make millions and millions and millions of dollars and pounds, whatever you want to do. You can be, You can be as famous as you want to be. You can achieve whatever you want. I think, you know, your personal energy and the positivity that comes with it when you know yourself makes all the difference in life. It's all up here. I strongly believe it. I have experienced it multiple times. I experience it every single day. I think that's what success is for me.
Just help me understand, when you say conquering yourself, what is it inside that one would want to conquer? What is that biggest thing that you think people
emotions. Emotions is probably the most important thing, because you see, on daily basis our emotions drive us, right? So if we could be happy because of environment around us, or when we're achieving something, but we could be feeling jealous or angry and frustrated, and it's all dependent on the environment around you. So when you're in such environment, then you know, really being able to handle your emotions, being able to control your emotions and staying focused makes a lot of difference, because I think time is very important. But if you're not managing your emotions properly, you can end up wasting a lot of time.
And a whole lot of relationships, and it, you know, impacts our work life as well.
Everything impacts.
It's great. Person has some anchors. You know, for example, you said that you're a social entrepreneur, and making money is not a priority. It's needed for an enterprise and for a social entrepreneur. What is the foundation belief? What is the big beliefs that you have either, you know, perhaps embraced from your childhood or learnt on the way? But what is that big anchor in your life that defines everything else?
I think I would say two things. More on a practical level, my kids. I was a single mom for a very long time in England. For 9 years I was a single mom, and that really, you know, while yes, I wanted to do the right thing where we can create an impact in people's life, but on a very practical level, my kids, because of the children, I never gave up. Never gave up, regardless of whatever challenges I've had in my life and the struggles I've gone through. I never gave up, and that really, you know, when I was talking about knowing yourself, they're the reason why I know myself. So that's, I think, you know, I give them a lot of credit for what I am. And the second thing is, I think, you know, it's just amazing to know that you can do things for people and that can change their lives for better. And I think, you know, I'm very a strong believer of faith. I am a strong believer of giving out the positive energy, doing the right thing, because it always comes back in many other ways. So I think, you know, where we talk about that, you know, we make a lot of duas to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and at times it just seems like nothing is happening the way that you want it to happen, but it always comes back to you. And at times, I think, you know, as human beings, we're not able to see that. We're not able to see that far ahead.
So not the door that has opened.
The door that has opened, and things happen in magical ways, in mysterious ways. You know, for me it happens, and I think, you know, that has connected me with the divine power up there, in the sense that, you know, anytime I want to do something, as long I know my intentions are right and you're putting your hard work in, things happen. They happen, and that's why I keep saying that, you know, when I think you're getting that foundation right within yourself, then you can achieve anything that you want to achieve in your life as well.
Faith it until you make it. I love it how you said that how your kids can help you understand yourself more. You know, a lot of people, when they think of self-awareness, they think of it as a private process, and you know, we only become more aware when we look at our relationship with our environment, with the people around. You know, fascinating. I also say faith it until you make it.
Yes.
You
know, you're absolutely right.
Okay, so a big comment the people would end up saying, or the older generation would say, is discipline. And every successful person has definitely mastered some disciplines or has disciplined themselves around certain ideas. What are your core disciplines?
I think, you know, time management is very important. especially if you have, you know, as a woman, as a mother, because I have so many roles.
Yeah.
I am a wife, I'm a daughter,
Absolutely.
I have, you know, you have so many different things to do. So your time management has to be right, because these relationships are very, very important in our lives.
Give us a quick tip on that, how to make that happen.
I think you have to master it within yourself, I suppose.
Yeah.
I've had a great help from being in the boarding, because that sort of, you know, that meant that, you know, you're awake at a certain time. You know, the breakfast, if you want to have breakfast, it is only available from this time to this time, and then you've got to be
So
at
tip
school.
time management, go to a boarding school for that.
Yes, because you've got to be trained into it. You see, you've got to, if you haven't had the opportunity to somebody to train you into it, then you've got to do it by yourself. You have to be.
I think it's just setting a standard, whether it's imposed or it's.
I think it's about valuing. The core thing is to value time.
Sure.
And not just your time, but other people's time as well.
It's very important.
Because it's all give
So
and take.
that's number one, time management. That's one discipline. Any other disciplines that you'd not compromise on?
I would not compromise on self-respect. I think that's a very important discipline, I would call it, because I think when we're in relationships, may that be personal or business or whatever relationship that is, self-respect should come as a priority and should be followed as a, like, you know, the top rule. Wherever you feel that you're having to compromise on your self-respect, you should just walk away. Simply walk away. And I tell you what, at times I have left things that could have made me super rich, but I wouldn't, because I wouldn't compromise on my self-respect. So, you know, that's I think, you know, for...
And it's sad, I mean, because you work with girls, and, you know, I was speaking to at a women's university day before, and that's, you know, it's fascinating how a horrible joke would make girls laugh, which is against them, you know. It's the lowest form of self-respect, when you know it doesn't even impact, and it's part of jokes.
It's become a norm. So that's the sad
that's
part.
true. Yes, it's sort of seeped into it. It's part of the fabric. Great. What to make such things happen, whether it's in your family or outside, and, you know, with the two countries, different cultures, relationships are a common thread, and you also spoke of your experience, you know, a bit about being a single mother and doing things. What do relationships mean to you? And let's fast forward. That's Fajer now. What is?
I think, you know, relationships mean, I think it's everything in life, relationships, because you don't want to be alone in your life. You know, you don't want to be, we've got to be adaptable, we've got to be flexible, we've got to, I wouldn't say compromise is not a word I would use, but I think it's relationship, any relationship is a two-way thing. And you know, it's a give and take into relationship. It's understanding that not everybody would think like you, would act like you, would feel like you, and that's okay. And and it's just,
not everybody would think like you, feel like you, act like you, and it's okay.
It's okay. We have to be able to, I think, you know, we have to be able to accept people as they are, especially when it comes to business relationships and a personal relationship. May let's just say between a husband and wife. I think it's both.
Relationships
are
every
relationship. I think, you know, you've got to accept a person as they are. You know, you've got to understand that, you know, there may be some weaknesses, there may be some strengths, because nobody's perfect.
Definitely are. It's not a maybe.
So I'm just trying to be polite.
I have to give it out as a verdict, you know.
So it's, I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. If I'm talking about my husband, he's not perfect. So, you know, we've got to, when we, it's like, you know, I think I've learned a lot from my first marriage. And there are times when I sit down and I sort of reflect back in terms of where things went wrong in my sort of, you know, that relationship. Because I keep thinking I gave in so much. So, you know, you realize that, you know, where, what were the gaps, and maybe. So I think relationships are super important. It can only happen if you understand each other and you accept each other. You don't try to change people, because you can't change people. What you are, in terms of, I think, you know, like, you know, in my first marriage, I changed myself quite a bit in terms to I gave in so much so
Yeah.
I could make my partner happy.
Yeah.
But that didn't really work.
And then
because
gets
I
to you
wasn't
after
that-
a while. One can't keep
so
doing
I think accepting each other makes a big difference.
Sure. Wow. It's amazing the two-way street and how being self-aware and also being respectful towards the other and understanding that all of us are packages and we come with that. Somebody told me I got married a year and a half ago, so it's very interesting how people would say, congratulations, good luck. And then they'd say that, you know, let me tell you a joke. And I, what? Is a perfect wife. Or perfect husband, you know, but just this notion of having perfection, especially when it comes to people, is I think that's one of the biggest frustrating elements in relationships.
Yes.
Great, thank you. We'd hit back with a few more questions. I'm a believer of stories. I think they connect with adults, they connect with young people, and you know, everybody finds meaning in stories. If I had to ask you to extract 3 most important stories from your life, that of course you'd like to share with our people.
I think, and like you said, stories give you inspiration.
Yes.
And I think that's very, very important. There's one very recent story that I've actually shared at a couple of forums as well, which is related to Pakistan Alliance for Girls' Education and the work we're doing. So, and this has touched me so much that I just, you know, I can start crying if I'm talking about it. This is how emotional I feel about it. So this, back in August, our team, we went to Gilgit-Baltistan.
Okay.
And we're part of an initiative which is called Million Kids to School program, which is aiming to educate 1 million children out of school over the next 3 years. So it's quite big. So now I like to know the ground realities. I like to learn and I like to travel and understand what's happening and you know, what are the challenges that people are facing. So you know, the solutions have to be based on that. So we went to Gilgit, and the plan was to open 3 non-formal education schools in areas where there are no schools at all, and mobilizing the community and giving the community the responsibility for the school, so they learn, they run the school, etc., and we can support them from our back end. So always appreciated, alhamdulillah, for the work that is done, right? That there's no shortage of appreciation, everybody appreciates. But this area called Ishpatas in Gilgit, right? So we went there, and a very small village with nothing there, just people and houses, no shops, no internet, no electricity, no school whatsoever. And we were there so we can, somebody in the community had offered a free building that, you know, we can give a free building if we can have a school there. So we went there, me and my team, and this really old man, he must be 90 or something, very old. And he was called Haji Saab because he's the one from the community who's gone to Hajj. So he comes and he holds my hand and he drags me into his house and he says, "Ki, beta, you're going to come and sit in my house, right? So you're not going anywhere else, my house, right?" So we went, you know, we all went, and we went to their little drawing rooms, which are, you know, they don't have furniture in the rooms, so it's carpet and cushions and you sit on the floor. So we sat, and then he started to talk about Shab-e-Qadr, and he started to, you know, explaining, okay, you know what is Shab-e-Qadr? Na? Shab-e-Qadr is, and he gave us a whole like 5-minute sort of briefing on what is Shab-e-Qadr and the importance of Shab-e-Qadr, and he was like, you know, as Muslims we believe in Shab-e-Qadr, and Shab-e-Qadr is the night that you know, we know we can pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah would answer our prayers. That's, you know, this is how important that night is for us, and it only comes once a year. So I just want to tell you that today is Shab-e-Qadr for us as a community, because we've been trying to get a school in our community for last 14 years, and we don't have a school. And we've tried everywhere, other not-for-profit organizations working locally with the government, and we've been sending them letters because we want our children educated. They're not going to school, and there is no school nearby where they can go to.
Wow.
And you know, it's a hilly area. It's not easy to walk there. You can end up walking for hours and hours if you want to go to school. So for young children, it's extremely difficult. For girls, it's impossible because of the safety reasons, etc. Poverty is, you know, it's so bad there.
So that despite of that, Gilgit-Baltistan has a very high level of awareness when it comes to education, very high literacy rates as well.
And that shows that what happens in rest of the country then as well. So that was really touching, because he was like, you know, this is Shab-e-Qadr for us, because you have come today and you're doing this for us and you're supporting us, and nobody has done that. And
there's so many who are waiting, you know, waiting for somebody to reach out, and I think it's not completing the loop for them. It's just, you know, doing that bare minimum that can get them going. And I like the idea of you transferring it to the community, doing it with this sport. Any other stories that you'd like to share with us?
I think, you know, my children, I think, you know, there's a long phase that I have spent on my own with them, and my relationship with them is very different. They're my friends, they're my children, you know, they're the ones I would go to if I am not happy or if I'm feeling sad. And so there are numerous stories around that. You know, there are so many times when if I'm not happy about something, and how they will console me, and how they will come to me and tell me everything is okay, we're all together and we're together, and that makes all the difference. When I eventually got divorced, I was separated for a very long time. I've raised my children all by myself. My daughter, my eldest, she's 12 now, mashallah.
Wow.
So when I finally got divorced, I think, and she was 4, 5, very young. So the kids have always been much more mature than their age, I think, you know, in terms of they're not like other children who, you know, have a regular life. And I think it's how they've come to me at that point and said that, well, you know, we've always been alone anyway. So it's just a piece of paper and it just doesn't make a difference, and you know, we're going to keep moving forward. Mom. So I think that's it, and that's
a big source of strength.
Big source of strength. And moving from England to Pakistan, that's just another story, and so many stories within that as well, because I think England was a place where I started off. I was helped at so many different levels by so many wonderful people around me. And but then coming to Pakistan was this whole new experience. Coming back to Pakistan, even though I've grown up in Pakistan, I've gone to school in Pakistan, so you understand the culture, etc. But when it comes to work, the environment is completely different. And there have been many times when I think when I came and I wanted to just get going, because I didn't just come to Pakistan for because I was a single mom in England, because I was doing very well otherwise, you know, in England. But the idea was to come here and do something that could really help Pakistan, help people, and bring expertise from UK. I've got a very good network in UK, and bring that here. But when I was here, left, right and center, I think for the first year, 1 year and a half, were times when I wanted to do things and I wasn't able to, because it was sort of a thing that you're starting off all over again. And but I didn't give up. I think that's what I want to come to. It's staying there and staying focused, and I think the whole life is just built of stories. You know, there's so many different things that happen every single day that gives you the courage, the feeling that, you know, you can't give up and you have to keep moving forward. Yes, you have children, you've got to make sure there's food there on the table every single day. That's very important, and the needs are met. But then at the same time, when you're helping people, I see so many people, I meet so many people who come from very challenging and difficult backgrounds, and they're suffering. and being able to support them one way or another makes all the difference. And it's happened in England as well. I'll tell you a story.
I can't go on with that story. But I just want to say one thing. I think you said it yourself as well. That in all these stories, we're writing our own story.
Yeah.
And I think that is the critical part.
Yes.
But go on with that story before we ask you what your favorite books are.
Just a very quick something that I want to add from my work in England. So, that was a social enterprise, and had various different initiatives going on with the government support, etc., to help people. And we've got, huge migrant community in England. So there was this lady called Wafa, and she'd come from Morocco. And she'd only moved there because her husband got into some serious accident and became disabled, and she traveled all the way from there to England so she could get him treated with her children. So that woman had so much strength, and she wasn't even she'd gone to school, but she was a housewife, never worked before. And we used to have an initiative back then which was as simple as giving women the driving skills, just how to drive a car, so they can get on with their lives and do things that they need to do. And the idea was that eventually they can become economically active and support themselves. And that woman, going through that program, learned how to drive, took charge of her life so in a way that was just so wonderful, because she was able to take her husband to doctor by herself. And these little things, I think, we take for granted. But for somebody like her, those skills mattered so much and made such a big difference. For me, driving a car is I drive a car. But if you don't drive a car, then what happens? And it's same thing with education as well, that, we take our education for granted because we're educated and we've had all this exposure and support. But then for people who don't have this, don't have the skills, don't have the access, they literally have no life. And I think, the work that we do makes so much of a difference at so many different levels.
I think these stories keep us going as well, the more we hear. Very quickly, 3 books you would recommend to the people watching, and why?
Quran to start with. But I would like to say why Quran, not because of religious reasons, not because we're Muslims and we should read Quran, but I think Quran gives you so much, teaches you so much depth about life, and that's what you got to figure out from reading that book. Don't read it like it's the holy book and that it's mandatory for us to read. Read it like a book and understand it.
Like a book on life.
On life. I think I read Rumi a lot. And I just love the way he connects everything. He loves, the way he connects spirituality and your inner self with the divine power, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I would definitely recommend that if you want to get to know yourself and be better and be kind to yourself, then you need to read that. There are millions of books out there, some very, very good books, but these 2 books are the ones that I would always recommend. Rest, I think, is all materialistic. These are the 2 books. I don't have the third recommendation for you. I would always recommend these 2 books. I've read a lot of books, but I think it just comes down to, because
it's what gets you, what centers you.
I think
that's what I've liked about books as well, away from the usual list, something that just takes you over.
It needs to, I think, we need to find ourselves. We need to we need to create balance in our approach, in our attitude, in ourselves. So you should not, you've got to live with the world, but you've got to be connected with the outer world as well at the same time. And I think that's the key to success.
True that. आखिरी सवाल, पाकिस्तान के लिए 3 ख्यालात, your 3 ideas for Pakistan.
Okay, Pakistan is an amazing country. Pakistan is full of resources, and it's a big puzzle that we need to solve. Not
it's
even
a big
solve.
puzzle we need to solve.
I know. Okay, it's a big puzzle and we need to put the pieces together. I think that's probably the right way to put it. Because I think, you know...
Only if the pieces would like to come together. And
well, somebody's got to force them together as well, I think. Somebody needs to do that.
That's someone I have a problem with. It has to be all of us.
But in terms... Because you see, the thing is, we've got the biggest youth pulse. And I think within the development sector, we all talk about it, about the 64% that's there. That's our biggest resource that we need to really work on and support, and our children that we really need to work and support. Education, entrepreneurship and justice. 3 things. I think, you know, we need to look at all of this as from a very holistic point, not just as a standalone education, standalone entrepreneurship or economic development and standalone justice. All these 3 things would have an impact on a life of any individual. One thing going wrong means a lot of other things going wrong in life, and you know, that's my I think 3 things that we really need to focus on:
education, entrepreneurship, and justice.
Yes, economic empowerment, in not entrepreneurship, but
I
economic empowerment, because we need to be able to facilitate people. We need to be able to give them that environment where they can thrive. They can try out things, they can make mistakes and be accepted for that, and just really have that supportive environment there where people can help each other. And I guess I think that's another thing, you know, when we were talking about before as well, just really helping each other. Forget about competition. You know, I don't think we need to compete with each other. There's
we are taught that right from our childhood, and it somewhere stays with us. But thank you very much. It's been wonderful to have you and to listen to your amazing stories. And I'm sure that people who watch this will definitely look you up, find out more about you. Is there any website you would want people to look at? Any call for action from you?
I head Pakistan Alliance for Girls Education, so definitely look at Page website. It's page.org.pk, and it has information about everything we do. It all our social media
and
is
one
very
call
active.
for action to the people watching. One call to action.
Educate your children.
Yes.
Educate anybody that you can educate apart from your own kids. If you can educate one child alongside your own children, please do that. We need that.
Please do that. Thank you very much. This was Let's Jaliawala. See you soon.